Mike Golic Sr., Emerson Latzia hanging out at the DraftKings studio in Boston. We are brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GOJO15. We got another banger for you today. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review, and leave us that 5-star rating. We've got Chase Daniel coming up, former NFL quarterback, money-making extraordinaire, and Shaq Griffin, Houston Texans cornerback, also going to be stopping by and talking to us about all the good vibes around Houston, guys. But, Dad, the good vibes actually made their way to Chicago last night. Good Lord, I was not ready for this coming into the show today.
And it's amazing all the bad that was talked about with Chicago gets forgotten for a week, right? All the problems are gone for a week. It's like you wiped the slate clean when there are still problems there, obviously. But for that week, you heard after this game, the music's playing loud. There's dancing in the locker room. I mean, listen, it was their first win since October 14th of last year, 14 games. So you can understand the joy and the glee, and then the way they did it. This wasn't a barn burner. This wasn't an ugly game, which a lot of people thought it was going to be, unless you're a Commanders fan. This was a great operation for the Bears to get healthy, both offensively and defensively, at least for this week. And that's what you do. That's what you do in the NFL, man. With only 18 weeks and 17 games, you live and die week to week. And this is a week they get to enjoy. That said, it all came together. It all worked. You saw flashes that everybody will now build on. Instead of blowing up the entire thing, everybody will want to reconstruct it now and say, okay, they have a chance. But this is what we do week to week. But for that game, a heck of a game for the Bears, especially for Fields and DJ Moore, who they got in the offseason to really show how that connection worked.
You can still grab them right now at plus 25,000 to win the Super Bowl, gentlemen, on the DK Sportsbook.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Thanks for that. Give me $1 on that one.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to go that route, you certainly got the option right now. But, Dad, to your point, I think that the bigger question coming off this is how far this goes for Matt Eberflus, who we were talking about as one of the coaches potentially who would be the first to be fired in the NFL. For Justin Fields, a guy who, if this team continued to be bad and you've got these top picks in next year's draft, is he even the Bears quarterback anymore? And Dad, I'd start with calm the flames for a while that seemed to be leaking up around his seat, because the defense, especially in a game last night we talked about going in, the Washington Commanders and Sam Howell, the most sacked quarterback in professional football. The Bears defense, which is the side of the football Matt Eberflus cut his teeth on. He's taken over defensive play calling after they had to release, or their defensive coordinator resigned very suddenly a couple of weeks ago. And in this game now, you finish with 5 sacks after coming into the season with 2. Your defense, which was banged up on the back end coming into the game, only got more banged up as the game went along, had to gamble with a lot of blitzes, and Eberflus hit enough of the right notes early on, along with what the offense did, to go out and have that unit actually be a net positive in the majority of the game. Dad, how far does that go in keeping his job safe for the time being?
Oh, it certainly, keeps your job safe for the time being. When you could put a game like that together, now it's about, can you do it again? What's the consistency to this, as you go on? Your next game is against the Vikings, a team that's certainly not playing very well, and obviously a division opponent, and then the Raiders. So we'll see. Can you put two? You put one together. Can you put two together? And, you mentioned it. This is a team a few years ago living off the turnover. And as we talked about, not this year, you mentioned just a couple of sacks coming in. They had 2 interceptions and no fumble recoveries. So last night it's 5 sacks and a fumble recovery as well. Logan Thomas had a tough fumble for them after a reception for Washington, and they get a fumble recovery, their first of the season. So, you have to start it somewhere, right? And they finally got it going last night. Now, the 5 sacks, I believe, 11 quarterback hits. Didn't do it a lot with a 4-man rush. They did bring more heat. So that's still, as you go forward and really break this thing down, you look at that and say, okay, not a lot of 4-man pressure. On the other side, Justin Fields about 50% completion. The stat to me, Sam Howell completed a pass to 11 different receivers. Justin Fields, 3. And 2 of them were tight ends, Cole Kmet and Robert Tonyan, who came over from the Packers. And then DJ Moore, who had a night that you could just dream of as a receiver. But 3 receivers, that's all that caught a ball for the Chicago Bears, and they put up 40 points.
It was unbelievable, but this is a game where the stuff that Bears fans have been asking for, right? The defense to come to the party a little more, job done. And for Justin Fields now, this is a continuation of what we saw in that last game where everyone looked and said, oh, this looks more like what we would expect a Justin Fields-led offense to look like. And one of the early criticisms of the Bears this season was why you weren't involving DJ Moore in the offense, why you weren't running your quarterback more in the offense. Well, Justin Fields finishes with 11 carries for 57 yards in this game, and a lot of them were stressing the edge of the defense. You saw them work that into a lot of their first down runs, and DJ Moore 8 for 230 and 3 touchdowns. Goes off, and Dan, a lot of them were just my better's better than your better touchdowns. It was throw him a hitch on the outside, and Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie first-round cornerback pick for Washington Commanders out of Mississippi State, who's a smaller guy who had size concerns going into the draft. Dad, it looked like Thanos going out there and boxing Loki. He ends up getting benched over the course of that game because a lot of those plays were just DJ Moore out-physicaling Emmanuel Forbes and then getting a ton of yards after the catch.
Well, you mentioned a lot of hitches, but overall, though, he did throw a touchdown, did Justin Fields. Short route, medium route, and long route. He's done that multiple times this year. But in this particular game, you're right. And even Justin Fields said after the game, listen, there's a lot of one-on-ones with DJ Moore. That kind of makes it easy. And I'm not to say Justin Fields had it easy in this game, but when you see one-on-one, when you see a matchup you like, it certainly makes it easy to know where you're going with the ball. Get the ball out. Sometimes it was short. A lot of times it was short. Sometimes he threw a nice pass over the top to DJ Moore, who at times was covered and just flat out made the play. So you're just, as you said, throw the ball up and trust your guy in man-to-man coverage, and that's what Justin Fields was doing. We know what he can do running the ball as well. But DJ Moore, I always love the every now and then the stats. The 5th player in 5 games to have 5 receiving touchdowns, 500 yards in the first 5 games. The last one to do it, and the reason you bring it up because it hasn't been done a lot, just 5 times. The last one was Randy Moss in 2007 with the Patriots. So for a team that just got their first win, that's a pretty impressive stat for DJ Moore, an incredible bright spot, and a big, as we see, a reason that Chicago traded. They needed a big-time number 1 to help their quarterback in Justin Fields, who, by the way, has thrown 4 touchdown passes in the last 2 games. He has 11 on the season. So interesting game. I guess what it showed, Mike, is potential. You know, I think we started to see that anyway, and we can't last year, and we thought, okay, it's going to start going this year, and then everything under the sun has gone wrong for the Bears, off the field, on the field, equipment stolen, D coordinator leaving, and just horrible play on the field as well. And we all thought, the arrow was going up on them. So are you able to right the ship? As we said, first part of the season is not the team you are in the second part of the season or the third part of the season if you go by quarters of the season. So let's see, let's see if they can build on it. Like I said, 2 winnable games, Vikings and Raiders, that they have the next 2 games. So It's one thing to do it as a one-off. It's another thing to try and show a little consistency.
Hey, Junior, maybe we picked the wrong coach from last night's game to be the first one fired this season. Ron Rivera would be 0-5. Let's keep in mind the Commanders didn't start the season by playing the Cardinals and the Broncos. Not to mention part owner Magic Johnson, part owner of Washington, raising the hot seat temperature last night, ripping the team on Twitter afterwards, saying the Commanders have no intensity, have no fire, and Terry McLaurin even agreeing with him on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and for Terry McLaurin, you look and talk about all the receivers that caught balls last night. Logan Thomas, your leader with 11 targets in that game. Terry McLaurin, 5 targets with 4 catches on the night. In a Bears secondary that, again, coming into this game, had 2 players that were ruled out before game time. I believe lost another during the body of the game. I get wanting to attack the middle of the field. Daquan Brisker had showed up on the injury report, so they were banged up at safety. They could be had in coverage at linebacker. I can see, Dad, why you would target Logan Thomas some, and he made some great plays for you. But good Lord, Terry McLaurin is one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's very much in that same vein of a DJ Moore, who's often been under-talked about and utilized because of his quarterback situation, and they just refused to throw him a ball in a game where the best offense for the Washington Commanders came in the second half when they just decided, hey, we're going to play huck it, chuck it football. We're done with the run game. It doesn't matter anymore. Sam Howell has to go and throw us back into it. Sam Howell, who plays football like this is still the ACC, like he's a human bumper car, going out there and pinballing off men left and right to try and get it done. Giving the ball to everybody, finished with up over, I believe, 340 yards in this game. 388 yards, excuse me. Let me short the man who single-handedly tossed them back into this game. But the lack of production for Terry McLaurin as a primary target, especially early in this game. In the first half, he had 1 catch on 1 target. That is inexcusable as far as the way this offense shook out. And obviously, the offensive coordinator, they still put up a ton of yards. That's very strange to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, this is, remember, Eric Bieniemy's first time as not as an OC, but as a play calling OC, and it is a head scratcher not going to McLaurin more when before a game gets out of hand, right? I mean, at halftime it's 27-3, so your game plan is kind of out the window, but it does start 0-0. So what is your game plan starting with? But also, how tough is it to be a quarterback that you went into the game, the most sacked quarterback in the league, and the game turns out to where you have to throw the ball 51 times? Nothing good is coming from that. 51 passes and 10 runs because you were getting blown out. Sacked 5 more times. He is on pace. Now, again, sacks didn't start being kept until 1982. The record for sacks is David Carr. He's actually in the top 3. Top 3. He was sacked the most in 02, 76 times. Then right before I got to Philadelphia, I got there in 87. In 86, Randall Cunningham was sacked 72 times. And in 05, Carr, again, was sacked 68 times. Sam Howell is on pace to be sacked 99 times. 99 times. That's blowing away the record since sacks were being kept. It's ridiculous that he has 0 protection out there. So after a while, you're not going to be able to throw it to McLaurin, because if I'm playing against you guys, I'm covering tight, knowing that your quarterback isn't getting a whole lot of time to throw the ball. And if he has to get rid of the ball, I'm going to pick the thing off. You know, as going by his stats, he has 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year. So the way you play Washington, man, is a pretty easy game plan to play this offense that has a quarterback just getting smoked.
Well, it's a quarterback whose decision-making waxes and wanes between incredible, where he'll make great throws and great plays, and utterly chaotic. And that's the college football in Sam Howell that still lives there. Because, Dad, when you look at his performance, it's a reminder that sacks are often also a product of the quarterback play.
Exactly.
That's a guy who's worked his way into plenty of those. His sack percentage right now, coming into tonight, was 14.5%. Usually when you couple that number with the amount of pressures, you get a good indicator for how quarterbacks can sometimes help or hurt their offense. And Sam Howell right now, more often than not, he's a guy who makes great plays because he bounces off dudes. He's fearless. He's tough. I said he's like Baker Mayfield with a Hemi, but he also is going to work his way into some spots where he's going to compromise your protection by trying to do all that stuff. And at this point, a young player like him is doing that more often than not. So for Sam, it's still going to be an uphill battle. This is what you get when you've got a fifth-round player in his second year of football and really his first year as a starter going out and working through these mistakes. The Commanders are going to have an interesting come-to-Jesus conversation because their defensive front spent most of the first half getting very little pressure. I do give credit to Luke Getsy for that, Dad. I thought the play calling for the Bears turtled some in the second half, but in the first half, Getsy was getting the ball, great mix of getting the ball out quickly, running his quarterback, leaning on the ground game in general, and then setting up for deep play action shots where you had max protection, 6-7 guys in there to help protect Justin Fields. Let me ask you this, Dad. Justin Fields keeps playing like this for the rest of the year, and the Bears are moderately successful, but we know they're still going to hold at least one of the top picks. They've got a couple there in the holster and potentially could be up near number one if they keep playing bad. But let's say Justin Fields keeps playing like this, but ultimately the team's not super successful. Is that enough where you think the Bears would forsake taking a quarterback in this upcoming draft if they're in range of a Drake May, a Caleb Williams, or one of the top players in this draft?
Well, I mean, if you sit there and look at it, if you go ahead with his stats and break them out for the season, he's going to have over 30 touchdowns, right? I mean, he has 11 now in 5 games. You play 17 games, do the math. He's going to have over 30 touchdowns, but he's going to have mid-teens, maybe in interceptions as well. But if he's doing that, if he's throwing over 30 touchdowns and he's running the ball the way he's running, it'd be hard pressed for me not to keep him. Now, the completion percentage, I think he's right about 62% for the year. Got to keep an eye on that. So the thing I keep an eye on is certainly completion percentage, but turnovers. How much does he turn the ball over, whether throwing an interception or he runs a lot, so fumbling the ball on the run. But if you project out his stats, and I'm just doing them on my head really quick, I think it would be tough to move past him. To think what he and DJ Moore, Cole Kmet's having himself a year as well. They could use more weapons. As I said, 3 receivers last night is, I've never seen, it's crazy.
And by the way, they finished last night with a fullback taking handoffs for them in that game. All 4 of their top running backs end up going down over the course of this game there. Roshan Johnson left with a concussion. Khalil Herbert, who was looking great, left with an ankle. Their other quarterback left with a hamstring. And Devonta Foreman was inactive. Travis Homer with the hammy. It ended up being Kyrie Blasingame taking handoffs. He had 3 career carries as a fullback coming into this game. So it did tear down. They're going to need more weapons. Tevin Jenkins, they got back for protection for Justin Fields. I still think if the binary is you can have Fields or you can have Caleb Williams or Drake May in the draft, I might lean the young guys, reset the clock, because those 2 players are exceptional. But Justin Fields is going to be playing football for somebody if he keeps this up, and would be a massive asset for the Bears to move this offseason. I think they felt froggy last year. I think they jumped this year. But the conversation definitely got a lot harder after last night's performance, where the Bears put it on the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Emerson, unfortunately for the Chicago Bears and that franchise, some tough news coming into the game, mourning the loss of one of the all-time legends of the NFL, and certainly one of the greatest Chicago Bears, maybe the greatest Chicago Bear ever.
For sure. There was no way in hell the Bears were losing on the night Dick Butkus passed away, guys. His name has become synonymous with the violent side of football, fear and intimidation. Butkus was also synonymous with greatness at middle linebacker, and in many ways the NFL itself. So NFL Network ranked the most feared tacklers in league history. This was back in 2009. Number 1 on the list, Dick Butkus. There could have been really no other choice for the top spot. And Mike Sr., I know you tweeted yesterday about the impact he had on you as early as your high school days.
I mean, I can't tell you how much I loved watching this guy play. Everybody wanted to, if you were on defense especially, really if you were a football player, you wanted to pattern yourself after his type of play. I watched his highlight reel right before I left my house to go play in my high school games. Every single game through my entire high school career. Watching him play just motivated you. And this is the way the game was played. It's different now, but then it's the way the game was played. He was the most feared. He was the most tenacious. Listening to his peers who he played against talk about him and what he was on the field, is amazing. And I would just love the younger generation who maybe doesn't know what he did, may know the name, not what he did. That's a beautiful thing about searching someone now. Watch the highlights. Watch how the game was played back then, and watch this man just not give a damn about his body and throw it around. Played 9 years, had bad knees. That's what cost him his career. But he was the most feared, most tenacious player in my eyes in the history of the NFL. And this is back in the 60s. By the way, the 1965 draft, he was picked 3rd by the Chicago Bears. You know who was picked 4th by the Chicago Bears? Gale Sayers. So back-to-back was Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers. Unfortunately, they didn't have a whole lot of success with those guys together, but 2 of the greatest players ever in the history of the game. But Dick Butkus, an icon for football players who wanted to play tough, wanted to be tough, wanted to hit tough. He was everything wrapped into one. The toughest, most feared NFL player in my eyes of all time.
Yeah, my buddy Nathan Tyler used to do the same thing as you before games. I enjoyed his late career renaissance on Twitter where he was openly talking smack to people. A legend gone too soon. We will get back to more NFL talk next.
All right, following a tumultuous offseason that included a public and private feud over his contract and his health, Colts running back Jonathan Taylor talking to reporters for the first time on Thursday that he's finally healthy, he's finally ready to play while mostly avoiding questions about his future with the team. Listen to this.
Now, number one thing was me getting healthy. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not healthy, you can't be on the field. The number one ability is availability, and I pride myself on that. So, especially battling through last year, my number one goal was to make sure I eliminated all of that. I don't think it matters on if I'm saying I'm committed or not because I'm here. I mean, if somebody wasn't committed, they wouldn't be here.
All right, Junior. Taylor declining to address his contract, which runs through this season. All signs point to him playing out his rookie deal here, downplaying a desire to play elsewhere. Maybe winning will cure all of this, right?
Usually does. I just love the elite spin zone by Jonathan Taylor.
He's
now.
good.
Listen, I was just trying to get healthy. I don't know what the rest of you guys were so concerned about here. I was just trying to get back and be my best self. Best ability is availability. I'm committed. I'm here. Dad, that is a masterclass in avoiding the elephant in the room. And it seems like with this situation, the elephant's huge, it's multicolored, and it's staring at everybody here. And Jonathan Taylor just has no time with it. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, and listen, he's going to be there through the year. You know, none of the, if the reports are correct, none of the trade requests met the Colts what they wanted.
A lot of unrealistic expectations.
Exactly, as I was going to say,
faith negotiations.
And what they wanted was a bit much the way they were negotiating. So he'll be here, and then what can happen next year? They can franchise him, right? They can tag him, and we saw what that number was last year. It was like $10 million. So it'll be a little bit more than that, but not much. So we could be going through this all again next year. But I think he's doing the right thing. Get out and play. We learn from Le'Veon Bell, even though Le'Veon Bell sat for an entire year and got himself a great contract, but his career was basically never the same. Started getting injured, and it was basically done. But he did get the money.
Which I don't attribute to that year off.
I agree. I completely agree. I don't think any player believes that's going to happen for them, and their best way to show their wares and get paid is to be on the field, and not be injured, and show I can stay healthy. And I think that's what Jonathan Taylor needs to do and want to do. And then we'll see what happens about his future, which I think was the right thing to do, and say, I'm not concerned about that right now. I'm back. I'm healthy. I'm ready to play.
Yeah, no, we'll get to what their game against the Titans potentially looks like as we preview some of those later this weekend. But Jonathan Taylor back with the Colts, back with Anthony Richardson in that backfield. We got to get to this Don LaGreca sound from yesterday, though. I have been waiting to play this. Emerson, Don LaGreca responding to Evan Neal, Giants right tackle, who came out and made some comments about fans that have been booing them in their home stadium. Yeah. Said, what are these people that are criticizing me doing, flipping burgers here? A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep. Basically fired back at fans that have been critical of the team, called them fair weather fans, and Donnie Boy had something to say.
Who the hell are you to talk to fans like that? You piece of garbage. I hate when players do that. You're not above us. What, because you happen to play a sport? You're better than me? You're better than the people that pay your salary? These Giant fans were here before you, and they'll be here after your sorry ass is cut. What a piece of human trash. And I don't want to hear some apology. I don't want to hear, I was taken out of context. I don't want to hear, done. I would cut his fat ass.
Okay, all right. Perhaps, Junior, the best thing for the Giants, and particularly Evan Neal here, is the fact they're not playing at home Sunday or the following Sunday here.
Yeah, everybody needs a little space. This is like when you have an argument with a spouse or a significant other, and you guys just both go for a walk or something. Maybe
I love doing that.
This off and take a little bit of time right now, because tensions are high in this, Dad. I don't even begin to know where to start on this. Don LaGreca, first off, making a piece of sports talk radio art right there. Elite yell. I saw the Levitar guys say yesterday it looked like when Santa Claus is mad right now. He's got the beard and hair combination
phenomenal.
That you've been dying for.
Phenomenal. I mean, the greatest thing about that, I wasn't even listening to much of the rant because I was mesmerized by his white hair and beard. That is exactly where I want to end up, and he is there.
He is there.
He has some of the most epic rants in sports radio history, dude. Like, there are reels on YouTube. You could Google his name. This may not even be close to, like, his most heated rant in his life.
Listen, and I've known Don for years. Don and I have been friends. I like Don, and listen, he's very passionate. I don't know how he's lasted this long with some of the rants he's had. I mean, I almost start saying, dude, have a Coke and a smile here. Let's relax a little bit.
Listen, hey, that's a good reference, because the Santa Coke commercial,
Exactly. Listen, what Evan Neal said was dumb to say, and he did come out and apologize for it, but you just can't do it. You just can't acknowledge what's going on. The fans do pay. They're allowed to boo. Well, get into this every now and then. Should fans boo? Boo all you want. What do I care? Boo. Go ahead and boo. And Evan went too far saying, again, the lion, the sheep, to these people, are they flipping burgers and hot dogs? And you can't do that. He was wrong. But man, Don, he always comes at it from the fan side. Like I come off from player side. He comes at it from a fan side. Listen, give him an A for being passionate, but boy, oh boy, I take a breath, my friend. Take a breath.
Yeah, this was one where it reaffirmed that I still have some former player in me, because I consider myself a bit of a day walker, right? I didn't have the long NFL or post-college career that you and others had. I do have some passionate fan side to me when it comes to Notre Dame, so I kind of get to dip a toe in both worlds, and I've been in the media job now way longer than I was as a player, but this still pissed me off. Like hearing him talk about a player like this, even if it was something that ultimately is a little bit for show, where he leans in, where we understand that, like it getting to that point where it was demeaning of a player. Because Evan Neal's overall point, I do understand using it and using the profession of somebody to demean their opinion is one thing, but he's right about the fans. None of these people could do the things Evan Neal is doing. None of those people have lived in his shoes, have known that, or have accomplished what he's already accomplished in his career. So their criticisms of him are baseless. Like, they aren't a thing that I would concern myself with if I was an offensive tackle playing in the NFL. I'm not worried what Joe in the cheap seats has to say about my performance, but you also don't say that while your team is currently in the situation they're in right now, especially in New York. It's just not advisable behavior, and using profession to demean that too. That's not cool. We don't need to make fun of someone for how much money they're making when they're just booing. If they want to say something truly demeaning, then by all means, let the chopper sing on that and let them feel it. But if they're just booing for poor performance, you got to just sort of eat that and let the play do the talking for the time being.
I mean, Mike, he goes straight Lord Tywin Lannister. Like, he went straight there with the lion doesn't concern itself with the opinion of sheep quote. So he goes full Game of Thrones villain here. That's not the way to do it.
And what he said was right. He should not concern himself with what the fans are saying. But you're still, that's I say a lot of times, these aren't robots playing. These are human beings. We hear about pitchers in the bullpen that are right by the fans who are just harassing them the entire game. And at some point you're a human being and you lash out and you say something that you shouldn't say. And that's what Evan did. Evan absolutely said something he shouldn't have said. He should have kept that to himself, but he is a human being. And listen, to Don's side, Don is, again, a fan, and he was offended by that. Do I think he went a little far? Yes, I do. I think he went a little far as well in his criticism of Evan Neal, but that is a player side and that is a fan side. There are a lot of times where they're not going to agree on what's going on the field.
And I understand it's not an apples to apples comparison, but like, we did just come off a stretch where we all took Rodney Harrison to task for referring to Zach Wilson as garbage in a game. He was talking about the play there and went a little bit too far, but this is the kind of stuff you invite when you talk like that about guys in the fraternity from people on the outside. Dom was going to do this anyway. This was more about a fan interaction. So it's not a perfect comparison, but it is an apt reminder that this was still across the line, and that talking about and demeaning a player like that is still not going to fly with me. Still going to jostle that a little bit. I did enjoy, he did tell people to boo him in the DMV. You want to know how far down the list of things that bother me in the DMV some random guy booing me would be? First off, that's probably an easy way to get dropped because tensions are already high enough in the DMV. But getting booed in the DMV is actually one of the most hellish things I can think of. Now,
who's going to do that to Evan Neal's face? Let's be honest. Come on.
New Yorkers probably is the answer there. New Yorkers is probably the answer. Coming up next, let's talk to a man who's lined up under center for so many teams in the NFL and get some insight next here on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Emerson Latzia, and let's go a little bit smarter. We're going to talk a lot about quarterbacks heading into the weekend, talk a lot about college football, talk to Chase Daniel here, longtime NFL veteran quarterback here, Super Bowl champ, kind enough to join us now here. Chase, what's going on, man?
What's up? How you doing? Good to see you.
We are doing well, and we got a sighting of the Chicago Bears last night in a monster win over Washington. Justin Fields with 4 touchdowns yet again. And I want to start with a question Mike asked me. I want to ask you. If he goes on and has the season his stats are showing right now, which quite honestly would be over 30 touchdowns, but middle of the teens and interceptions and such, are you moving on from him because their season is not going to be good? What is your thought about the future of Justin Fields in Chicago?
Well, it's a slippery slope. I mean, I'm just not sure what to expect out of him. You look at the first 2 games and his stats, and you look at the last 2 games, almost 700 yards passing, 8 total touchdowns, 1 interception. So it's 2 completely different types of seasons almost. And it just seems like the last 2 games I broke down, and I actually dove deep into the all 22, and it's finally like a light bulb went off in Luke Getsy's head and said, hey, let's just put him in shotgun. Let him have zone read options. Let him do the quarterback run. Let him throw out a shotgun. And it just seems like a completely different offense, a lot of more pre-snap motions and shifts. It seems like Justin's finally settling down. But that's the question that everyone in Chicago wants to know. If you continue to play like this and they end up winning, say, 8 games or not, you're not going to be getting the number 1 pick, right? Caleb Williams is not there. Drake May is not there. You're going to be drafting higher. So I think that all comes into play. I mean, I think the way he's playing right now, if he can continue it and continue to show that he can play at a high level, then I think it's going to be hard for them to move on from him.
Have you been surprised by how little the offense before these last couple of games, and really going back to last year, seemed to lean into his skill set? Like, as someone who's been in a bunch of quarterback rooms, what is that conversation like as you're building the offense around a player with his kind of skills, where sometimes we see square peg and round hole happens in some of these rooms?
Well, I think that's exactly what happened with Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, and then the offensive staff and Justin Fields in Chicago. It's like, hey, here's what we did in Green Bay. Here's what we're going to do. And I don't care, you're not Aaron Rodgers, but it doesn't matter. Here's the plug and play. And all of a sudden, I think last year was the biggest thing for me when it changed was the New England Patriots, I think, Monday night game. I was in studio NFL Network studying it, and we were going on after the show. And all the analysts are looking at each other like, are you seeing this offense? Like, this looks completely different than what they've done the first 8 games of the year. And they went on to win that game. And then he played really well down the stretch, started slow the first 3 games. The last 2 games have been out of this world. So it's like there's no in between right now. Like, just go ahead and completely switch to this new style offense, which it looks like he's doing. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of times I saw the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'm looking at the film. I'm like, guys, he's not an under center, play action, block him up shots type guy. He's a shotgun type guy. Let him throw to DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. I mean, they got some weapons, Darnell Mooney. And yeah, look, it's been talked about how many sacks he takes. But honestly, I thought the offensive line played really well, and he was just holding on to the football. That's what it was. I mean, he has the most sacks in the last 2 years, holding the ball over 4+ seconds. I mean, you know that, guys. Like, you guys, like, you can't hold the ball that long. And I think something's clicked in him where he's actually going through his progressions. Hey, one's not open. Let's go to 2, go. And that's all I said. I was just like, hey, go to 1, go to 2. And if not, take off and run and use your ability as a runner, because you are a threat running the football.
So along those lines, we talked about the Getsy Fields relationship, Canada and Pickett in Pittsburgh, and others with coordinators and especially young quarterbacks. What does that room look like when you take people inside during the week of that relationship of how it should be working with the offensive coordinator and the quarterback?
Yeah, every place is different that I've been a part of, but the best offenses I've been a part of, the quarterback has a big time say in what goes into the game plan. Look, the coaches are going to be game planning on Mondays and Tuesdays. That's how it is. Quarterbacks usually get the game plan Tuesday midday, Tuesday night, and that'll be the base game plan and be like, hey, here's what we're thinking for the week. Here's what we're doing. And the best offensive coordinators I've been a part of is like Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael in New Orleans. Hey, what do you think? Do you like this? Does it marry up enough with our run game? Because we get the run game list early Wednesday. How do you feel about it? And especially on third down and red zone, we call them money downs. Like, you got to make the money on those downs, because that's what wins and separates in this league. And so when you're in a phase where you're implementing this offense, especially on third down and red zone, that's where I've seen quarterbacks have the most say in what we want to run, how we want to attack the defenses, because these defenses these days are getting wild. I mean, it's just like the amount of stuff that they're doing on third down. I mean, it's even more so. I've been out of the league for 6 months, and I'm looking at this film, I'm like, man, I haven't seen this pressure. So they're constantly evolving, constantly changing. And so I think that's just what the best relationships have, is like, hey, just tell me what you feel comfortable with, because what you don't, I'm just going to mark it off the play call sheet.
Chase, looking around the rest of the NFL right now, which quarterback has impressed you most early in this season through the first quarter with their play?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is Tua, right? But I go back and I'm like, it is an obvious answer, but he actually started very similar this year like he did last year, but obviously got hurt. But it's just so cool to see the offense. I think the offense around him is much better than they were last year. And so they've got everyone to step up their play, both of the running backs. Obviously, everyone knows about Tyreek and Waddle, and even River Craycraft. Like, he's playing at a really high level. Their offensive line's playing well. He's not taking a lot of sacks. And look, I know they got beat up in Buffalo, but this team, this offense, like, that to me has been the most impressive start, because everyone sort of saw what they were doing last year. And Mike McDaniel was able to say, hey, nope, look, we're going to switch it up. We're going to do different stuff. We're going to hide stuff. And so the innovativeness of him is just something that I really, really like.
Well, one thing, Chase, I was wondering, you've been with Sean Payton for a bit in your career. He goes to Denver. You have Russell Wilson, who loves to create things, and you have Sean Payton, who loves you to stay in the pocket, make your reads, and get rid of the ball. When you saw that marriage happen, what did you think?
I liked it. I really did, because I was with Sean Payton for 5 years in my career. I know that he's going to get the absolute best out of his quarterback. And I don't care who it is, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, you can name them. That's what he does. He's like the quarterback whisperer. Now, the stuff going on in Denver, you look at Russell's stats and you actually dive deep into the All-22 and look at his game this year. It's been excellent. The dude has been like vintage Russ Wilson. He's got 3 or 4 scramble touchdowns in the red zone, what he is known for. I've talked to the guys on staff there, and they said, hey, man, he still throws one of the best deep balls in all of football. And I agree with that. Okay, the problem in Denver is not the offense. It is the defense. The Broncos defense the last 2 years have been exceptionally well. I mean, top 10 in the league, especially pass defense, and they are just atrocious this year. I have no idea what's going on. So I think Russell's sort of getting the bug of that. But if you actually look in and look at the play, look, I know quarterbacks are supposed to win, and our good friend Trey Wayne will say, hey, wins aren't a quarterback stat. At the end of the day, you still have to win, right? You still have to do it, and your team has to be better. But I think Russell's playing exceptionally well, though.
All right, Chase, we only got about 30 seconds left here. I just need a quick answer on this. Is Brock Purdy elite? Yes or no?
Yes, he is. And that's the crazy thing. That's funny you said that, because I'm doing these all 22 quarterback breakdowns on YouTube, and we're dropping Brock Purdy today, and I'll dive deep into why he is elite. I mean, the dude completed 19 to 20 passes in an NFL game. He's like 9-0 in the games he's won and started in the National Football League. The dude is elite. He has really good playmakers around him, but I think he doesn't make any mistakes whatsoever in playing the game. He plays it exactly how Kyle Shanahan wants him to.
Yeah, the perfect Shanahan quarterback does exist. We're looking forward to that breakdown, Chase. We're looking forward to talking to you again soon down the road here, man. Thanks for giving us some time this morning. Good luck to your Missouri Tigers this weekend, man. Big one.
Got them on, baby. Let's go.
We'll find out who the real Tigers are this weekend. Missouri taking on LSU, man. Undefeated in the SEC.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, brother.
Thanks
guys.
Yeah, I can say, by the way, quietly, huge one this weekend. You look up and you talk about all these undefeated teams in the SEC, Dad. Missouri just sitting there waving their hand. Big win against Kansas State at home earlier in the season. They're doing some things.
Does not matter how many years you play in the NFL, man. You still wear those college colors proud all the time.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right, we got plenty more NFL action coming up to get to, but coming up next, a little bit of drama to start off the NBA season with the Los Angeles Lakers. We will get to their beef with the Nuggets next.
All right, not too long ago, the Lakers make this impressive run to the Western Conference Finals, only to be swept by the eventual champion in the Denver Nuggets. Now, on the NBA's opening night here in a few weeks, I believe October 24th, the Lakers will be back in the Mile High City when the banner goes up and Nikola Jokic and company receive their ring. So Anthony Davis saying earlier this week at Media Day, Denver talked a lot during that series, and he, LeBron James, and the rest of the team can't wait to face them again. And Mike Malone, Nuggets head coach, responding to those comments.
Oh, they're talking about us?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like 4 months ago. Yeah. I can't speak for anybody in LA. You know, I can speak for 17 players on our team, 18 players now in our group. But if they're still worried about us, that's on them. Yeah, that's not a rivalry. I mean, you can't play a team, you know, in the Western Conference Finals twice in the last couple of years and think it's a rivalry.
All right, GoJo, if it's not a rivalry now, let's make it one. Dude, give me all the trash talk. Now is the time to talk in October. You let your play do the talking closer to May.
And if anyone is willing to do the talking, it is Mike Malone.
Yeah, baby.
I love that he went full Don Draper. I don't think about you at all in this elevator. Dad, it's an incredible environment with the Nuggets because you've got a team where your best player is Nikola Jokic, who we talked about, is a disinterested king, would rather be getting drunk with his horses and hanging out back in his home country here, doesn't really want to be here all that much. You've got Jamal Murray, who's got a chip the size of a boulder on his shoulder at any given moment and seems willing to let people know about this. And then you've got Mike Malone, who reminds me a lot of every backup quarterback I was ever with, who would talk crap behind the offensive line at the bar and shout at guys knowing someone else is going to handle business. Like, Mike Malone's never going to go out there and score a bucket against LeBron James, never have to guard Anthony Davis in the post, but he loves trading barbs in the media going all the way back to last year. It's the perfect dynamic for this NBA team, and it's got to be infuriating for the Lakers to be getting over on by this group here who doesn't even consider you a rival because they can't be bothered with you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mike Malone should be sitting on his perch having a ball with this. Bottom line, they swept. Last I checked, they swept the Lakers. If the Lakers want to use them as a chip on their shoulder to talk about, you know, getting where they want to get this year, that's fine. But that has nothing to do with Denver, who whooped them, swept them, and went on to win the title. So I would be acting just like Malone in this. Oh, wait, you're talking about us? Okay, well, have a ball. You know, I got the ring. We got the trophy. You guys got swept by us. Use us as motivation. Go ahead. Do what you want to do, but you know what? Don't have a whole lot of time for you. We moved on from you and won the championship. He's holding all the cards here. The Lakers can say whatever they want. They got dumped on by the Nuggets.
They did. And remember, Michael Malone's been kind of slick about this for a while. He got introduced as the Lakers' daddy at the championship parade. He went on with McAfee and those guys and joked about contemplating retirement after the season, similar to the way LeBron did after that series. Remember, that kind of robbed a little bit of the attention from the Nuggets going into the NBA Finals. And so there's a little bit of gamesmanship around all this with the Denver Nuggets. But, Dad, what it boils down to is you're right. It's not a rivalry recently because the Denver Nuggets have been one of the best teams or best teams in basketball, and the Lakers have been riding the wave of injuries among their best players, including LeBron James, who I believe now is actually the oldest player in the league. Did he get that news delivered?
Yes. 38 years old. He's the oldest player in the league. It is still wild to me being that old and seeing these, 19 and 20-year-olds come into the league. I mean, but then again, he does have a kid about that age, you know, and Bronny, you know, who's a freshman in college. So he is used to dealing with kids that age, but he's more used to them as a father-son component, not a teammate component.
Yeah, I don't know. For LeBron James now, I think a lot of people, I know our super producer, Brandon Newman, huge Lakers fan, thought that LeBron's motivations for coming over to Los Angeles largely laid off the court and were about his pursuits in the media, were about certainly setting his, sons and daughter up for the best opportunities, going out here with all the basketball opportunities, especially for all of them. But Dad, this does feel like the perfect cocktail of events to kind of reignite that competitor, LeBron James, which I never really questioned. I never thought was an issue. You look at the way he played last year, certainly doesn't pop up an issue. It's just the injury creeping in, as Father Time does inevitably wear down even the greatest athletes that we've ever seen. But if you're talking about a guy who doesn't need extra motivation, who now has it in the form of the Denver Nuggets, who for so long felt like the least offensive collection of human beings you could get together, and now all of a sudden just decide to start brush fires everywhere they go.
And I'm cool with it. I mean, the Denver Nugget team, I mean, even winning the championship, people will find a way to disrespect them. They have gotten no respect over the years, right? I always thought of one of the better teams at time, but could never close the deal. And now they finally did. Man, if you have a chance to chirp now and that's the way you like to go about your business, so be it. You're at the top of the mountain right now. Now, somebody's going to try and knock you off, and we know that happens. But if I'm alone, hey, and the Lakers want to talk about me, I'll keep throwing barbs in. don't care about that because I got the proof right now. I got the ring on the finger and the sweep last year on them that took them out of the playoffs. And as far as LeBron, listen, if he did go, and I've said this all the time, when you have a choice of where you want to go, a lot of things come into play. Money, geography, rings, whatever. And in all honesty, if he did go there more for post-career and kids' opportunity, more power to him. I mean, that's his choice. If that was, and I don't know if it was, but I know people have talked about that. And that's on every player on why they want to make a move when they have a choice to go somewhere. And you just happen to bring them a championship as well and should be one of the better teams as well, though it is getting to be an older, better team. Their lifeline is not much longer as far as where they're going to be in this league with guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron together.
Well, Junior, I was going to say one opportunity that LeBron has not had yet since moving to LA is being on Travis and Jason Kelsey's podcast. He's begging these dudes on social media to be on there. He says, crazy, I can't even get an invite.
Yeah, which somehow I'd imagine now we are all going to get to look forward to that audio coming up soon. But speaking of other things LeBron James probably excited about and a guy with a choice, Joel Embiid going out here and committing to Team USA for the Olympic Games in Paris. This feels big time. Yeah,
the president of France even called up Embiid and it's like, hey, man, we could really use you. We'd love to have you. And Embiid's like, yeah, no. So he's choosing USA over host France and his native Cameroon. So he's now expected to be joined, by LeBron, Curry, Durant, Davis, Adebayo, Booker, a host of other top-flight NBA talent on Team USA next summer. And listen, USA needs all of this talent to mask some cohesion issues that we have seen with this group recently, GoJo.
Yeah, Dad, USA basketball obviously took a big shot in the FIBA World Cup over the summer and everything in the conversation around that, getting slandered by sprinters, world championship nonsense. This feels like one of the first dominoes falling in what we'd imagine is a re-upping of our status as the best basketball playing country in the world. I know that's a bit of stolen valor because, as we talked about, Joel Embiid holds both French and American citizenship. He was born in Cameroon, so he's got a choice and hadn't been playing for Team USA before this now, but it seems like everyone's had enough conversations behind closed doors about wanting to go out here and kind of shut up all this conversation. Who knew Noah Lyles would end up being the catalyst for so much of what's gone on? They need to give him a medal if they go out there and win it. We're all playing for Team USA, but he seems to have really lit a fire under the American hoop players' asses after those comments he made this summer.
It is kind of interesting. Every now and then it comes up and there's more than you would think that Embiid had three options. You mentioned born in Cameroon, citizenship in France and the U.S. He had three options to play on three different Olympic teams. So, and for obviously as a U.S. fan, I'm glad he chose U.S. But we've gone through this before when we were talking about the FIBA championships and U.S. losing is they loaded up like they were the dream team. They proved their dominance, and they've had dominance in the Olympics for a while now. But FIBA, not so much. World Championships, not so much. That they start the stars start to not go, others take the place, then they start losing, and then we kind of regroup. This is going to be a blow, right? If all the guys show up that are talking about showing up, it's not going to be competitive. I know the rest of the world has gotten better. I get it. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to put all the stars that are talking about going to the Olympics for the U.S., this is going to be an easy gold medal.
Famous last words, old takes exposed. Get it ready to go. Coming up next, let's get away from this league and get to the NFL. Looking ahead at the game I have had circled on my calendar since the season began. Next on GoJo and Golic.
Time to get a little emo for open mic night here, something producer Brandon knows all about with a week 5 acrostic here. So, gentlemen, G is for the team that's got to get a dub. O for the trip overseas by the team I love. L for the squad that's got no chance to win. I is for the game you just can't force yourself to tune in. And C for the matchup you simply cannot miss. So let's turn it over to the Golics so they can break down all of this.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Slam poetry Emerson Lazzi is showing up to the party right now.
If you
How
think
about
I wrote
that?
that, you would be wrong. Producer Slate.
No, yeah,
Producer
All that
Slate
was
is
missing was
much
that
more
large-
emotional than me.
All that was missing was that large coffee cup sitting on a table next to you.
I know. I needed to like don all black here. We needed the mic stand. I needed like eyeshadow and like the Jimmy Butler comb over, you know.
I was just going to say, Jimmy Butler would be very proud of your effort. I can't think of slam poetry and not think of 21 Jump Street. Cynthia, you are dead. You are dead. Baba beep boop. But instead, no, we don't have that. We don't have 21. As we have Emerson beautifully laid out there. Our week 5 acrostic. Going to try something new here, Dad, as we look ahead to the weekend and give you the Golic method that he just laid out for looking at the slate that we've got here. So, as he mentioned, Dad, let's start this off as we look at week 5 in the NFL. The gotta have it game, the team who's already in must win mode for this weekend here. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route because I think we think of must win in terms of what's on the line for your season, what's at stake, where you're at currently. I'm going to go a little bit more of the pride on the line here. We saw a renewed effort from the New York Jets this past week against the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw the best of Zach Wilson so far in this season as he's taken over for the injured Aaron Rodgers. But remember, going back to this offseason, the Jets' chief opponent was not injury. These things had not yet entered our thought process. No, their chief opponent was Sean Payton out here talking his trash. Sean Payton, who trashed Nathaniel Hackett and the staff from the Denver Broncos last year that was on their way out, mentioned some of what had gone on in New York, drew the ire of Rob Saleh as a head coach, drew the ire of Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback there, certainly got Nathaniel Hackett in front of a microphone a little bit more steamed than we would have expected. I think for the Jets, this has to be a dub. The Denver Broncos defenses look dreadful most of this year. We just talked to Chase Daniel. It hasn't been a Russell Wilson problem, and we haven't heard much more from Sean Payton since, but he came out here, pointed directly at everyone in your building and said, it's you, hi, you're the problem, it's you. So I feel like the Jets got to go out here and put on for the guys in their building right now and get this dub against the Broncos team that looks ripe for the picking.
All right, I'm going to go with the a couple of 1 and 3 teams here, and I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. They're at Arizona. Arizona, I don't think is obviously going to have a great year, I don't believe, but they're proving to be a tough out for other teams as well. Cincinnati, there's been a lot of expectations, including this guy who picked them to go to the Super Bowl. They're sitting at 1 and 3. The Ravens are sitting at 3 and 1. Pittsburgh and Cleveland at 2 and 2. Shockingly enough, with Joe Burrow a quarterback, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, this offense that they have, they are dead last in the NFL on yards per game. It blows my mind, but I still think this is a team that has the talent to be one of the better teams. It's getting to that point where, okay, the first couple of games, we know we've read the stats, but as we go, time may be running out here a little bit for them. I think this is a must win. And you know what? Cincinnati's quarterback, Joe Burrow, agrees with me.
We got to go in and get a win on the road. We haven't had a road win yet. We've prided ourselves on the road. We're playing a really good football team, good defense, good scheme. You know, we need it for our morale. We need it for the rankings. We need it for everything.
Yeah, and Dad, Joe Burrow, no stranger to forcing himself back in games where we know they've got to win. When they were facing the 0-3 start, Joe Burrow pulled himself off the mat, refused to be out for that week, and made it happen. This, to me, is still going to boil more down to, because people are going to talk, and I've seen more discussion about Joe Burrow's overall decision-making at this point, yada, yada. It's based on the calf. Like, Joe Burrow is a player that thrives in being able to create even outside the pocket. He's a great pocket passer, all these things. But when you lose the confidence in that portion of your body, especially as a quarterback, your base to be able to go out there and make the plays you're used to, you saw it in a very, I think, overt sense last night. Khalil Herbert went with the ankle injury in the Bears game, went out there and tried to test it and went for a toss and immediately knew, like went down quick and realized, I'm not going to be able to plan on this thing. I'm not going to be able to do it. Joe's not asked to be that dynamic, but when your base is compromised, it makes you start thinking about everything else a little more. This is going to fall back on Lou Anarumo and that defense. Can they go out and make it happen? Because we've seen the Cardinals defense bow up and bully better units than what they're going to face against this Cincinnati Bengals offensive front. So very worried about this one because, like you said, the Cardinals are a live dog this season. Let's go overseas, Dad. The Jacksonville Jaguars continue their residence over in London. They played their second straight game over there. They're 5.5-point dogs to the Buffalo Bills in London. We've got the Jags tail of the tape here. Von Miller actually on the trip right now, Dad. Great news for Buffalo is he's back in his practice window trying to ramp up to return to play coming off that knee injury from last season. The Bills have looked like the best team in football so far this year, Dad. What do you make of the Jags' chances? America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as Emerson listens with bated breath right now if we're going to slander his team in front of him or not.
If we're looking at one of the surprising teams on the negative side, Jacksonville's going to have to be there, right? Everybody in that division is sitting at 2-2 after what Jacksonville did last year, where they got what they did in the playoffs. The thought was to take that next step. The team they're building around Trevor Lawrence there, and they have slipped up a little bit and not looked like that team that we thought. So again, we're at the quarter pole. So can they start to improve? But now they're hitting a team, because this is what we do week to week, that are now saying, are they the best in football after what Buffalo did to Miami, 48-20, just absolutely smoked them. So they're the best team. So they travel over to London. We keep talking about traveling. Jacksonville stayed there for the week as they played there last week. And then they stayed for the week. So now they are used to being over there. Let's not kid ourselves.
They better get used to it.
Yeah, but no, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. Not going to happen.
Hey, I'd never ever say never ever.
Yeah,
I don't know. You being out on London, I think, is quietly one of your worst takes. I can't believe you don't see the writing on the wall on this.
The writing. Some may want that writing on the wall. Overall, when you start, making the list of pros and cons, I just do not.
You know who some are? The people that make all the decisions and have all the money around the National Football League. When they want something tends to get done here. Jacksonville, Duval, I like all your stadium renderings. I want this for you, but it feels like all the rich people in the NFL want your team to play ball over in London with a division over there, and I feel like eventually they always get what they want.
I'll just say, decide what you're willing to lose, because we'll make a bet on that one. That'll be a down the road bet. I don't think that ever happens, but more importantly, can they get this win against, arguably the best team in all of football right now and start to show that they're on the right path? Buffalo is hot right now, doing the overseas trip, though it's become obviously a little more commonplace, and it's not that far of a trip when you're talking if you went East Coast to West Coast anyway. I still like the Bills in this one. They're playing hot right now. I think it's going to be a tough one for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I would go Bills. I would go Bills in the points in this one. Like if we're picking these games here, Dad, the Bengals, we talked about 3-point favorites on the road again. I think in a desperation situation, I'd take that. But I would also say here, the Bills and Josh Allen, he's playing his best football right now. He's taking what the defense gives him. I think that's too much. I would also take the Bills and give the points on this front too. What about you?
I would take the Bills and give the points as well. I think it's going to be a little too much for Jacksonville. I am interested to see what ends up where Jacksonville ends up going this year and how far they end up going. But I still don't think they're amongst. Stop it! I still don't think they're among the elite yet in the league. So I think that shows here.
By the way, I figured out the bet I want. If the NFL ends up putting a team full time in London, I get to shave your head.
Shave my head?
Yeah. I want to shave your head bald. I want that beautiful head of hair of yours gone.
So what am I going to do on your side that would match that? I can't do that already.
Shave his back. You can shave his back. How about that?
That would be more torture for him.
What do you want? I'm supposed to. That means I won the bet. I'm shaving his back.
Come on, man.
You can pick out the worst toupee in the world, and I'll wear it around for a weekend out, or wear it in public somewhere. Yes. You know what? You can figure out the terms of yours. I'll give you that as an idea. But if they put a team in London and you're so damn confident, you shouldn't be worried about me getting the clippers out here and shaving that beautiful head of hair of yours.
Wow. Yeah, I shouldn't because I don't think it's going to happen. Now, you're going to shave. Are you going to get it down to the nubs and then shave it completely bald, or just give me like a big time buzz cut?
No, I won't pick it. I won't actually take the straight razor to it, but I'm giving you a low buzz cut. You're going to look as bald as you've looked since you were a little baby.
Well, no, it would actually look like when I was a rookie at the Houston Oilers and I got my head shaved. So I know that feeling. Okay, I have to think of something on your side of how bad it's going to be, but I am confident it's not going to happen. So I'll take that side of the bet and I'll think of the other side.
God, I can't wait to hold those Clippers. Let's look ahead.
That sounds, you know what? You sound kind of mean.
Yeah, you do.
I mean,
you seem like you're really into this. I'm like, what is going on?
I'm your father.
Yeah, my father, who's routinely made jokes about my hair on this program and been
like
a living foil for my follically challenged nature. So,
not my fault you're
this
bald.
is deeply personal, and I want to destroy that hair.
All right. Boy, that's Emerson. The vitriol is just
Junior,
a little stunned.
Yeah, go for a walk or something, dude. Go eat something.
Hey,
this is
you and Greca go arm in arm for a walk.
Or in the words of Senior, go have a Coke and smile.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to change a damn thing at this point. Instead, I'm going to roll right into the team that is most likely. Let's get to the L in Golic. The team that's most likely to take an L this weekend. And Dad, this is based on very little real analysis and more just on the vibes of the universe that I know to be true. Because there are very few things that were surprising about last weekend for the Tennessee Titans. The Titans being able to go in against Joe Burrow and this banged up Bengals team, make life a living hell for a team that was expected to be one of the best teams in the NFL this year, and find a way to get a win in a season that's been tumultuous on offense for them, to say the least. And the least surprising thing again this week would be them finding a way to lose to the Anthony Richardson-led Indianapolis Colts as a letdown coming off that. We mentioned the offense has been a struggle this year for the Tennessee Titans. This Colts defense, I think, has some stuff to them. And Anthony Richardson potentially getting Jonathan Taylor back in that backfield. I know in terms of, I think, completion percentage over expectation, Anthony Richardson is dead last in professional football right now. But I've seen enough flashes of what look like quality throws as the consistency grows, as that run game continues to be the focal point, and as the Tennessee Titans are still what they are on offense, the other side would not be surprised at all and would actually pick the Colts to win this game.
Wow, that's going out there a little bit. Okay, especially is there any chance of JT getting back? They have 21 days to get him back, but he was talking about playing on Sunday. He's practicing this week, so and I don't think we've heard yet on what's going on. I would be somewhat surprised if he played, in all honesty.
I would too. But in general, I just still think based on the cosmic four, usually my thought process with a lot of NFL picks is what's the funniest thing that could happen in this situation? And the Colts somehow managing to win this game, given the circumstances, would definitely be up there.
Well, my L is going to the New York Giants. I mean, a team that got smoked Monday by Seattle. I don't see them coming out of the funk they're in. Occasionally they can. Obviously, we saw what Chicago did, so we know it's possible to do. But by the way, they're going to play a Miami team that just got absolutely smoked by Buffalo. So they're feeling the sting of that, giving up 48 points to that team and only putting 20 on the board. So I think Miami is going to absolutely come out humming for this one. And what's interesting to me in this is Wink Martindale, obviously an excellent defensive coordinator, well-known defensive coordinator, now with the Giants, spent a lot of years with the Ravens, when he was talking about what it was like preparing for this Miami offense.
My wife called me last night before she went to bed. She said she was worried about me. She said, "You get any sleep?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sleeping like a baby. Every 2 hours I wake up and cry and go to the bathroom and try to go back and get some more sleep." I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. But that's where this league's heading. With some of the other scores, the points have been up pretty high.
I mean, just think about that. Like, in all honesty, as we just had Chase Daniel on, and we've all been around the game long enough to know the system of, okay, your game ends and you start working on the next game. So you're Wink Martindale and you start working on that Miami offense and just be going, oh my God, okay. Yeah. where do we start here? Who are we taking away? What are we doing? So I loved that comment, sleeping like a baby up every 2 hours, going to the bathroom and crying. That was awesome. But I just don't see the Giants winning this one.
Finally, someone with a realistic assessment of how babies actually sleep. That
exactly.
might be the most inaccurate idiom we've had in society, is the idea of sleeping like a baby. Most friends I know, babies sleep like absolute hell during the early going of their life. So
exactly.
Wink Martindale feeling the heat of that one, because I'd agree. This one definitely, from a win-loss standpoint, as far as what's going on the field, seems like the most obvious candidate, which also means, much like when the Cardinals played the Cowboys, let's all prepare ourselves for Wink Martindale and the Giants as their backs against the wall to somehow beat the Dolphins and have them go and slide. Dad, let's get to the ick game that's going to be a difficult watch this weekend. To me, it's Saints-Patriots. You got Derek Carr limping into this with the injured shoulder from last week, and an offense that's already struggled, even getting Alvin Kamara back. You've got the Patriots offense with Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien that has not been able to get on the same page. And you've got two really good defenses. Like, I know for the Patriots, you lose Christian Gonzalez. You have to go make the trade for J.C. Jackson because your secondary is a bit banged up. But that side of the ball and what the Saints have on defense are going to make this an absolute rock fight. And I know you're into that, but I'm not. So this one's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I know you've never been into that one. And I almost picked that game, but I decided to go Jets at Denver. So, and I'm not a full stats guy, but I found this kind of interesting given what Russell Wilson and that offense went through last year. Of the Jets offense and defense and the Broncos offense and defense, you know what the highest rated of all four of those side of the ball is? It's the Denver offense. They're rated the highest. And remember, the Jets were talking about having this historic defense, or at least one of the players was. They're 21st in the league. But the sides of the ball, the Jets offense is 30th, and the Denver defense is dead last at 32nd. Have a ball with this game. This could be one of the uglier games that we've ever seen, which means, of course, it could be one of the greatest games we've ever seen, too. But just the matchup of how these teams are playing. And I agree with Chase, by the way, when he was on talking about the offense for Denver is actually doing decently. It's their defense, which they've leaned on for a bit. It's playing awful, just awful ball right now. This has the makings of a real direct game, one that when Scott Hansen is enjoying the red zone time, that we don't see a whole lot of this game.
No, I do think the Jets win outright, though. I think that Denver defense has become too much of a liability. Yep. I think this is another soft landing spot for Zach Wilson to put together a string of positive performances that maybe give that defense a little bit of hope. Dad, you and I both had the same C game. Can't miss game of the week here. Yeah. It's the most obvious one in football. Cowboys at Niners this weekend in a matchup that feels like it could very easily be the NFC Championship coming up later this year. The Cowboys had the setback against the Cardinals a while ago. The 49ers have played clean football all year. Dad, I think the most important thing for me here, it seems like, and I know Dak Prescott and a lot of these guys didn't want to jinx it, but the Cowboys on track to have their starting offensive line from before the season all on the field together potentially this weekend for the first time. And I think we saw in that Cardinals game where they were missing 3 starters, there's no bigger delta between team performance than the Cowboys when healthy up front with an offensive line that they've rebuilt into one of the league's best, and the team when they're banged up and compromised at that position.
Listen, I think everybody's looking forward to the side of the ball of this Dallas defense, which is, I believe, second in the league right now, and perhaps the defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons, against this offense for San Francisco, which is, by the way, second in the second or third in the NFL in the weapons that they have. Again, you heard Chase Daniel on here saying he does think Brock Purdy is elite. I think Brock Purdy is playing unbelievably well and has just a string of talent and a great coach as well. But you have to give Brock Purdy the credit that he's due for that as well. But they are just loaded, absolutely loaded on the offensive side of the ball. So this one of the better sides of the ball matchups we're going to see this year in the San Francisco offense and the Dallas defense. I was really surprised at the Dallas game against Arizona, but that's going to happen in the NFL. That's why you don't see undefeated teams normally. And the last one was in 1972. But what a matchup we're looking for. The star power in this game is immense.
Yeah, I think for this one, the health of Micah Parsons, who's been banged up this week, is going to go a long way in that. if he's not fully ready to go in this game, I have very real fears for Dallas. But if he's healthy and good to go, Dad, Dallas is getting 3.5 in this game, and I'm inclined to take it. I think this is going to be an absolute knockdown, drag-out fight between two pretty similar teams here. And for Dak Prescott, what a great opportunity to step up here. You're always going to be a lightning rod figure in this league. You've taken great care of the football and are going to have to again in this game and be the difference going up against that Brock Purdy. Let's get to college football next.
All right, time to turn our attention to the college game with our Modelo College Football Weekend Preview, brought to you by Modelo, the mark of a fighter. Guys, there's Texas, Oklahoma, Maryland, Ohio State, Kentucky, Georgia. Week 6 sneakily becoming here a huge weekend for conference races and the college football playoff push, which includes y'all's Irish in prime time. We mentioned it yesterday for the 3rd straight weekend against an undefeated opponent, Junior.
Yeah, not since the Notre Dame Ohio State weekend where we had that unbelievable 6 ranked matchups going into the weekend have we had one on paper this good going into it. And Dad, let's start with that Notre Dame game here. Notre Dame on the road at Louisville. Notre Dame is 6-point favorite in this game on the road, looking to go for it. This is wild and didn't get into this nearly enough coming off Duke. Notre Dame is looking to go for its 31st straight win in the regular season against the ACC. I know it has been infinitely frustrating for that confidence, having Notre Dame have its cake and eat it too, but that's really got to tick people off here. So how do you see this one, Dad? Sam Hartman and company escape in Durham last week with a win over Duke in a fashion that no one really expected, and now go on the road and against Jeff Brom in a game that has a lot of familiarity.
Yeah, you look at the familiarity. How about last year? When Sam Hartman was at Wake Forest, 3 interceptions against Louisville, 2 returned for touchdowns. Sam hasn't thrown an interception this year, and he's now set the record. He taught Jimmy Clausen's run this was a while ago, a few touchdowns ago, 9 before an interception. Sam Hartman has been having an incredible year, not turning the ball over, and this is a team that did turn the ball over to last year, including the touchdowns, as I mentioned. So Very interesting. I don't see Sam making those mistakes. That was with Wake Forest. Different team here with the offense of Notre Dame that is still led by the running game of that incredible running back room that they have. This tight end has been incredible, Evans, for Notre Dame since coming back from injury. So I don't see those issues for Sam Hartman that he had before. Notre Dame is a 6-point favorite in this one. I see them absolutely covering this and getting the win.
I do too, and I look at all the familiarity in this game. We know, like you said, Louisville familiar with Sam Hartman, but on the other side, Marcus Freeman got here in 2021 when Notre Dame played Purdue, led by Jeff Brom and led by Jack Plummer, the quarterback that's going to be out there for Louisville. Notre Dame also played Cal last season where Jack Plummer was the quarterback. So they've got plenty of familiarity with the quarterback, plenty of familiarity with the scheme on this, and a defense that's used to this. I mean, Louisville came in this weekend, leads the ACC with 102 rush yards per game, but got absolutely stonewalled by NC State last week. I think that's a predictor. Notre Dame also, most importantly, getting healthy. Jaden Greathouse and Jaden Thomas, both wide receivers that missed last week, expected to be back this week along with tight end Eli Raridan. So I like Notre Dame to get the win in this one. They are healthy. They are familiar in this matchup, and I think incredibly motivated after escaping certain death of their college football playoff future this last weekend on the road. That kind of wake-up call amidst the stress. They keep rolling. Dad, the next game, and probably the biggest one of the weekend, Kentucky at Georgia. Georgia, 14.5-point favorite in this game against Kentucky, who's ranked for the first time this season this week. I'm going to be calling this game for Learfield Audio down in Athens between the hedges. This one, Dad, a fascinating strength on strength. Kentucky running back Ray Davis, the transfer from Vanderbilt, leads the SEC in rushing, one of the best running backs in football, coming off a career day, 280 yards against Florida, going up against a Georgia defense that right now statistically is better as a pass defense than they are a run defense. But I do not doubt the personnel there or Kirby Smart's ability to game plan around a Kentucky offense that right now is not as accomplished passing as they are rushing. And that could be a dangerous formula for this weekend.
Yeah, Ray Davis is the guy to look at for Kentucky. You've already talked about that. Their running back who went off for 280 yards, 4 touchdowns against Florida, runs the ball incredibly well. And this is one I'm kind of waiting as well, as I'm sure you are, in calling the game with Berrien Brown and Tavian Robinson, the wide receivers for Kentucky, banged up at the end of the Florida game. Coach has been really vague about their availability. If one or both of those guys isn't available, while they're not the greatest passing team in the world, that is really going to hurt them. And for Georgia, we saw Brock Bowers save that game for them last week without question with what he did. I do like Georgia in this. Georgia has not been playing the type of ball that we're used to seeing, but they're still undefeated. I'm gonna go out and say I'm gonna take the points in this one. Georgia's gonna win, but I'm gonna take, if it's 14.5. So I could see this being a 2-touchdown game, me winning by the hook.
You look at Georgia through SEC play so far against South Carolina and Auburn. Slow starts, a halftime deficit against South Carolina, a deficit going into the fourth quarter against Auburn that they had to rally from here. They've been able to find their way through tough situations, and they deserve credit for that. But this offense under Mike Bobo this year, as he's taken over with Carson Beck at the helm, has been banged up up front along the offensive line with the Darius Mims out now and at the running back room, and really forced them to get some pieces in different spots here so far and make it work. It's going to be an exciting game here. I do think on Kentucky's side, really strong defense, we're used to that under Mark Stoops, is going to come down to Devin Leary, their transfer veteran quarterback from NC State, who so far through the season has thrown 5 interceptions. That was as many as he threw during his best season and his last healthy season in 2021 overall with the Wolfpack here. But like you said, if that receiver room's compromised, could be very interesting. Very excited to call that one. Won't make the pick because of it. Dad, we got Red River this weekend too. The last installment of Red River in the Big 12. They're getting ready to both make their move to the SEC, the 119th edition of this game. Dad, Texas at number 3, a 5-point favorite in this game. And this feels like one where this was the juncture of the season last year where Oklahoma started to hit their slide. They started off hot similarly last year. They lost in dramatic fashion, a bang-up fashion to Kansas State at home. And then Dylan Gabriel, who's at the helm for them now, was injured and out for a 49-point rout last year against Texas. So how do you see this one going?
And you say 49-point rout, 49-0. I mean, it was an absolute destruction that went on. So I think stats fool this one a little bit for you. Is Oklahoma is one of the better defenses around, but they haven't played a top 40 offense yet. They lead the nation with 10 interception. Now, Ewers has only thrown 1 for Texas. I think Texas is a much better team, in all honesty. This is a 5-point game. I think Texas wins by double digits in this one. I just think they're on a roll right now. They're playing very, very well. Jonathan Brooks, 3 consecutive 100-yard games. I see that continuing again against Oklahoma. So I don't see this as close as the spread. I'll go Texas, and I'll give you the points.
I actually kind of feel the same way. I don't think it's going to be a rout like last year necessarily,
No.
But this Texas team is just so different in the trenches this season. We know about the offense and what they're able to do with Sark, but defensively, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, they've got dudes that are throwing their weight around in the trenches for what feels like the first time in a while there meaningfully. I think that goes a long way in this one. Jonathan Brooks, Texas's running back, too, is a great compliment to all the big plays they want to have in the passing game there. I'm also pumped the schematic matchup. Steve Sarkisian calling offense against Brent Venables on defense, 2 of the best schematic coaches in college football, getting ready to go this weekend. And the last one real quick here, Dad. Yeah. I mean, it feels weird that we're throwing this game off to the side. Alabama at Texas A&M this weekend. Bama, a 1.5-point favorite, walking into a game where very quietly, Dad, back in sole possession first place in the SEC West and have a real shot to continue their march to Atlanta if they can get through this game.
Texas A&M, top-rated defense in the SEC, allowing just 96 yards rushing a game, averaging 4 sacks a game. And Alabama's going to have to make their living running the ball, right? I mean, that's what they're doing. They don't have a passing quarterback. They've tried all 3, and none of them can pass the ball worth a whole lot, so they're going to be running it. And A&M does a good job of stopping the run. All that being said, it's a 1.5-point spread here. I just trust Alabama more, even though it's not been a big year for them yet. I trust them more than I trust Texas A&M. So I'm going Bama, and I'm definitely giving the points.
Yeah, Max Johnson, by the way, taking over as Connor Wegman got injured a couple of games ago. And so that obviously a factor in this. Some whispers floating around about this game as it concerns to the line that we won't play credence to here. Bama started slow, but I think they're starting to figure out a little bit more of their identity now on that ground game. Big run for Jalen Milroe in this last outing that I think is indicative of things to come. I'm not going to be surprised. I think Alabama's going to find a way to win the West. And this is a team now with 1 loss out of conference early in the season that if Alabama and this defensive-led team with a ground game that maybe starts to come online a little bit more, all of a sudden still going to be a live dog in the hunt as the season goes along, as we left them for dead. Nick Saban can never count him out as Michael Myers music starts playing in the background here. We should all be very, very afraid. Coming up next, let's talk to one of the good vibes Texans. Shaq Griffin going to join us here from Houston Squad next on GoJo and Golic.
All right, back here on GoJo and Golic, where don't look now or do, but this Texans team is pretty good, and its defense is a big reason why. Actually, a 1.5-point underdog on the road at Atlanta. This Houston's defense allowing a total of just 23 points total over the last 2 games, so they're in good shape ahead of a throwdown here against the Falcons, whose quarterback, Desmond Ridder, is a mistake-riddled machine at the moment. We're talking a top 10 defense in terms of passing yards allowed. A key member of that Houston secondary is Shaq Griffin, feeling pretty good about the shape this team is in, and he caught up with the guys earlier this week.
We have talked a lot about the Good Vibes Texans on this program, so that makes me even more excited to welcome in Houston Texans veteran corner Shaq Griffin. Shaq, thanks for joining us today, man. How you doing?
Oh, doing good. Appreciate you guys having me.
And Shaq, with how your guys' season has started off, I know you weren't here for the bad times before leading up to this year with this new regime. What's the energy like around Houston right now with all the renewed hope around this Texans team?
Oh, man, the energy, I feel like the energy is a whole bunch of guys just buying in. I feel like everybody's on the same page and want to turn things around. And, and it's easy to get a couple guys just to say it. You got your couple leaders, your couple captains who say, oh, yeah, we want to get the organization turned around. But everybody is buying in, from the guys that, on practice squad to the guys that's on the roster. Everybody is playing their part to do whatever it takes to get this organization back to where we wanted to be at. So, it's awesome to see everybody buy in without even having to continue to relay the message every single day. Everybody just gets it.
You dealt with other coaches in Seattle and Jacksonville. Tell us about D'Amico Ryan's energy and what he's brought to the team.
Man, it's a person, he's a coach that understands the game. And I think that's the best part about it. A person that's been through it, the person that's seen a little bit of everything, and when it comes to adversity in every situation that you could be in, a person who understands everything that a player could be going through or could see. I feel like that's the awesome part about it. And after being under a system like Pete Carroll, to come here, he's definitely a player's coach. It's a person who want to take care of his players, because if he take care of players, them same guys are going to run through a brick wall for him. And I kind of see those similarities, and, be able to bring that and have that experience of being in the league before. His energy is contagious, and I can see why, he played as long as he did, to be the captain that he was, when he played this game, it shows, and I feel like he carrying over into his coaching, and everybody is following his league, and it's awesome to see that.
Do you remember that first moment where it sank in, whether it was on the field or in meetings, when you realized this is how it's going to be with him as a head coach?
Oh, man, I think that happened first meet when I first got there. I actually remember, just coming here on a visit before I actually signed. And, the type of conversation that we had, I was already bought into before I even signed here. I was telling him, I'm the type of guy now in my years where I don't need to be motivated. I just want to win, and I feel like that's the part that he wanted. He needed everybody to feel like. So, we was already on the same page, and he already was bringing that energy before, you talk about OTAs, before camp and all this. This is the energy he was bringing along from the beginning since he stepped through these doors. And, and that's all it was. And now that everybody is seeing that and buying into it, whatever it takes, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure we win, and everybody is following that message. He's been preaching that from the time he walked through these doors.
You came to this team as a vet. The team is starting a rookie quarterback. Usually that's going to come with some growing pains. Talk about when you first got there, your thoughts about a rookie at the helm and how you feel about his success now.
Yeah, well, it wasn't my first time. When I first signed to Jacksonville,
Right.
Trevor Lawrence was our rookie quarterback. He definitely had some growing pains, and he becoming a phenomenal quarterback. And to come here, to have another rookie quarterback and to surpass those little rookie walls or whatever people want to call them, for him to get past that so early on, for him to catch on to what's going on in this league so fast, you can see the type of maturity and the type of mental aspect that he has that he brings to this game, because he catch on so fast. It doesn't take him long. If he feel like he made one mistake, that mistake won't happen again. You get a rookie, you might give him a couple, maybe 2 or 3 times to make that same mistake. Those are growing pains. But for a guy to pick it up early on, and hopefully that same mistake happens in practice, because if it happens in practice, it's not going to happen in the game. And I love that part, because he grabs his game so quick, and to be so young, you don't get that maturity, that mentality out of rookies so early. But like I said, man, this guy is someone who came in, he knew the pressure was already on him. He had to be the guy that we needed him to be, and he's standing on that. He's been the exact guy he's supposed to be when he came into this league getting drafted here. He's our guy, and he knows that. he's taking upon himself and he's walking in that step. He's walking that way. So, this man maturity level is through the roof.
All right, you mentioned practice. You got to see him in practice before anybody else. So for you on the field, what stood out in OTAs and training camp where you realized, oh, we might have something with this guy?
Man, his competitiveness. I feel like a person who can stay poised in any situation. We in practice, when they get camp get a little bumpy there. I might be talking trash. You might be talking trash, but once you get to that point where someone got something to say, even if it's Jalen Petrie. I remember they was going at it one day in practice. And, I see Jalen Petrie say something and he's saying something back and then he throw a pass. He complete a pass. Jalen Petrie, I come back, try to break up a pass. And this is someone who's, I'm not backing down from no one. And, when you got a quarterback like that, I'll follow that guy. I feel like any receiver, I'll follow that guy. A person who's going to compete, he's not going to shy away or fear away from anything. Oh, I can go to battle with him any day. And he showed that early on in camp. And I knew we had someone special. At the end of the day, you just want somebody who's ready to compete. And he showed that in camp way before the season. So I knew we had something special with him.
All right, Shaq, for you, a guy who's been around for a few years, when a player leaves a team like you did, Seattle, and then left Jacksonville, whether it's on good terms or not, there's always something to playing that team again. So for you personally, what was your thought going into that game against Jacksonville?
Oh, man, I definitely wanted to show them guys something, but I also felt like it was a situation where I had to show myself. Coming through a back surgery, them 5 to 6 months was different for me. I had to get myself back into a space where I know for a fact I can play this game again. So personally, that game was mainly for me, but it's also be able to show those guys that I tried to tell you guys that I still can be the guy y'all needed me to be. So in that situation, that's the part I was showing them, but it's also a message is to say I still can play this game. I can have the confidence to go guard and take away anybody who they put on this field. So that was the thing personally for me. But it was definitely more icing on the cake to get a chance to do it against my own team. You talk about first start back after a back surgery to go against Jacksonville. It was meant to be. So, but I got nothing but love and respect for those guys in that building. I remember after the game, man, after a loss, you tend to kind of have run to the locker room. I was chasing them after. I said, y'all better give me a hug or something. I need a hug or something. It's always love over there. And them guys know that. When we on that field, we're here to compete, and they all get that, and we all get it's a business part of it. But that game was mainly for my confidence, understand that I still can play at a high level like I used to after this back surgery, and also show the team that I tried to tell you first. But Texans, the one that showed me love, they brought me in open arms. You say, you know what, I believe in you, so you should believe in yourself. And they gave me that. They gave me that opportunity to be able to show that and showcase that self for me. So that was awesome.
And we know with the injuries in your DB room now, they're going to continue to need even more from you on the field. With that being said, you guys got the Falcons this week, Bijan Robinson, all those first-round draft picks in the offensive skill room. What do you see when you cut on the tape of this football team getting ready for this week?
Man, that dynamic run game, I feel like that's the main message right now in our room, where we got to stop this guy. Or they drafted early on. This running back is doing some really special things. So that's the person we got to get after first. When it comes to everybody else around them, we got to make those guys maybe want to throw the ball, put it in their quarterback hands, make them try to go win it against us. So that first thing first, that stop the run. If they got to pass, we got a great back end, a DB room who's ready to compete. So we can stop this run game, make them pass it. We got y'all back. Let's stop this run first, and whenever they're ready to pass, we'll be ready for them. So, it's one step at a time. We got to stop this dynamic running back. He's a good back, young, he's fast, he make his cuts at full speed, and we understand that. So, main thing is we got to get him down early, get him down fast and consistently, and get that guy to start passing that ball and put the game in his hands.
It's going to be incredible. We're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to more Texans football, which is nice to be able to say after the last few years around this team. Shaq, thanks so much. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon, man.
Most definitely. I appreciate you guys again. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaq.
Yes, sir.
Shaq Griffin, a product of UCF, would be a great road trip partner, right? But let's say you're behind the wheel, you have an annoying passenger, maybe you just want to seatbelt choke the guy. Well, Jitsu is for you. I know you have questions. We have answers. We'll deliver all of them to you coming up in This, That, and a Third.
Who the hell are you
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Emerson Latzia. Thank you to our guests from today, Shaq Griffin from the Houston Texans, Chase Daniel, former NFL quarterback. If you missed any of it, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review, leave us that 5-star rating. Check us out here on DraftKings YouTube channel, DraftKingsNetwork.com, Samsung TV Plus, and more, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and wherever you get your podcasts. But let's finish it off with this, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off into the weekend. And Dad, let's start with some good news here for North Carolina. An end to the saga surrounding UNC wide receiver Tez Walker came yesterday when it was announced he will in fact be eligible to play in 2023 season, according to the NCAA, after new information emerged that school officials failed to previously provide. Now, North Carolina Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham says that that's bull, said that they provided all the necessary information there. But Dad, now the former transfer from Kent State, who originally started off his career at North Carolina Central, but never played there because of the pandemic, and who was expected to be the best wide receiver on this North Carolina team, now back and ready to go for a team that's still undefeated and looking out at a potential ACC championship on the line.
Listen, this is a joke by the NCAA. I'm happy for Tez Walker, but they cost him 6 games because of their idiocy. And we've heard that new information came out, as you mentioned. Bubba Cunningham said that's not true. All the information was provided. So I don't know what turned the switch for the NCAA. All I know is this decision should have been made that he could play at the beginning of the season or earlier, and not 6 games in. So I'm extremely happy that he's able to play. But it just, again, says what a joke the NCAA is, and what, as we talked about yesterday, now they're illegal to take the recruit to take a picture in uniform. Who gives a damn? I mean, seriously, you're judging things on the most stupid, basing your thing on the most stupid things out there. I don't understand it at all of what you're trying to accomplish with this. This one really angered me, and I can't rant like Don LaGreca. But while I'm very happy Tez is back, they cost him 6 games, and that's a joke.
Yeah, the NCAA using this as an opportunity to take shots at UNC, saying that we're disappointed in UNC wanting to wage a public relations war over this. I would say if there was truly new information presented, it would have to be because North Carolina found out new information, because there was no benefit or advantage to that side holding back info to have potentially gotten their top wide receiver and a kid that Mac Brown and company clearly seem to love on the field sooner here this year. I'm always going to give the benefit of the doubt to any anyone opposing the NCAA because the clown car of an organization that it is has shown no reason for me to believe in them. All that being said, still a great reminder. Any of you weirdos that were out here threatening NCAA officials when this all went on, you're exactly that. That's goofy behavior. We don't need to go that far on this, but glad that at least Tez Walker is going to get to compete this season now, to go out there and catch passes from Drake May during his last season in college football. That's all a big win here. The NCAA still stinks, and we can still make fun of them because they got shoved in a locker and because internet bullying in this case works, even though we don't support bullying on this show.
No, we do not.
Anyway,
Bullying works in general, yes, whether it's online or in person.
Highly effective. Highly effective. That being said, guys, we get to that. No bullying needed here as the WNBA announced its intent to expand this upcoming season, Emerson, and it looks like we're getting that expansion into the Bay Area going off here, guys.
Yeah, officially granting Golden State owner Joe Lacob and the Warriors an expansion franchise here. It's going to begin play in 2025, so the yet unnamed team here will play at Chase Center. We'll practice at the Warriors facility in Oakland. If all goes to plan, too, if all goes to Lacob's plan, they're going to be hoisting a trophy sooner rather than later because the man who is no stranger to making bold predictions, Junior, guaranteeing a title for this new WNBA team within the first 5 years.
Wow. Yeah, he also went on to say that he thinks this is going to be the #1 revenue team in the W right now. They are ready to put the full might of what they've built up there, Dad, because for Lacob and company, they're the most profitable team in the NBA right now, in large part because of their investment in the real estate around the Chase Center and everything they've built up that area to be. And so now this is, I think, what people have been clamoring about with the W for a while is if you put the investment into the product the way that we've seen most recently through the most recent CBA, through the renewed effort from sponsors and television partners, you've got incredibly compelling basketball. You've got the 2 super teams that we talked about this season, but more than anything, you've got a great story to tell in a league that's on an upward trajectory. And we know this, Dad, for investors and people looking to get in, for a lot of these rich people around organizations and sports, finding a league like this that's got so much positive momentum and so much potential for growth is an investment that I think a lot of people are really excited about right now. Well,
you capitalize, right? When things are going well, that's when you capitalize and try and continue to keep going. And that's what happened. The WNBA is a great product right now. As you mentioned, the 2 super teams playing in the finals right now. So this team will start, I believe, in 25. They said in the first 5 hours of the announcement, they had 2,000 deposits for season ticket holders. So yeah, it is on the upswing. Time to take advantage. You continue to take advantage of it. And we've been talking about expansion, right? Because we've seen first rounders getting cut on rosters just because of space available and teams, that the amount of teams that they had, and knew there had to be an expansion to keep some of these players on the teams and keep with the costs where they were. So this was an inevitable thing, and it's going to an area that they're very excited about and promises to be, a money-making venture.
And Joe Lacob's a guy that's got familiarity with women's basketball, was one of the original owners in the American Basketball League back in the early 90s. That was an original competitor with the WNBA, and said the failure of that league was always one of his biggest regrets. And so now on the back end gets to try and make good on his involvement with the women's game here. And we continue to see the W growing in ways that most people would tell you, and people that have been fans of and promoting this league for a while, was something they all could have seen coming.
And Junior, his claim may sound crazy, like, hey, we're going to win a title in the first 5 years, but we've seen what he's done with Golden State and also the Storm winning a title in their first 5 years, and then we've seen the Dream get to 2 finals in their initial 5 seasons.
Yeah, listen,
so it's doable.
Across sports, we've seen expansion teams be able to have success recently. You look in the NHL, what the Vegas Golden Knights were able to do early on, and so with all the resources available, excited to see that this is getting support. It sounds like the other expansion team is likely going to be in Portland, although that announcement hasn't been made fully yet. And so we'll wait to hear on that information. But guys, let's get to the third here.
Oh boy. My God. I was unaware this was even a thing.
I actually had seen highlights of this before.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me. That doesn't shock me.
Jitsu.
Yeah. It's like you're on your computer a lot throughout the day, so you probably get to some weird places on the internet.
So we've got the Jitsu quarterfinal round here, Dad. A sport where 2 competitors are seated in the driver and passenger seat of a car, both buckled in with their seatbelts. Safety first, we love to see that. Once the match starts, both competitors have to unbuckle themselves and attempt to submit their opponent inside the vehicle. Each round lasts for 3 minutes. Both competitors are allowed to utilize any of the vehicle's interior to their advantage, including the seatbelts, steering wheel, window, all of this. And just like actual Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the competitors are rewarded for points by judges for taking advantageous positions, mounts while moving around the vehicle's interior, and the winner is ultimately declared to whichever competitor is victorious in 2 of those 3 rounds. If both competitors win 1 round each, the final 4-minute round takes place in the back seat. Backseat driving, baby. How about this?
This is not the type of wrestling in a car that we are accustomed to hearing about. That's for sure. But it's interesting the start of it. To start, they both have to buckle their seatbelts. And the first move when the clock starts is both of them put their hands over the others where the seatbelt unlocks so they can't unlock their seatbelt. They want to stop each other from undoing their seatbelt. But you're seeing one guy use the seatbelt to try and choke out the other guy, goes in the back seat, wraps it around his neck and starts to yank on that thing. I mean, these are things you see in action movies, right? When there's a fight in a car.
Can we get a celebrity version of this with Jason Statham, where he's got to be the final boss of this? Car Jitsu against Jason Statham. Jason Statham seems to be the logical conclusion.
Or who's the other dude? Liam Neeson, right? He's the dude, I will find you.
But Statham has done this. We have seen him do it in the car. So maybe they're basing Jiu-Jitsu off of what he did in a movie. I have no idea because I don't know how long this has been around, but it is wild.
Can't wait to choke my dad out with a seatbelt the next time we're in a car together. We hope if you enjoyed any of this, you'll download, subscribe, rate, review. Everybody, have a great weekend. Enjoy all the football. We'll talk to you again on Monday.